Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming. I know it's the last talk of the day, so thank you for coming here. My name is Chrystian Vieyra. I'm an engineering manager at Comcast. I transitioned recently. I was an Android developer, and about 5 months ago, I transitioned to become an engineering manager. And I'm here with my colleague.
Thanks, Chrystian. Yeah, my name is Sanat Tripathi. I work as an Android engineer at Comcast. We are here to talk about deep links. Let's get started. All right, but before actually that, we just wanted to give a quick overview of the product that we actually work on. It's the Xfinity app. Xfinity app is basically one-stop shop for all Xfinity experiences. By that, what I mean is, like, if you have internet gateway, you can check gateway statuses. You can set up parental controls. You can control your smart devices and check out, billing account information all in one place. So do check us out on like App Store, Play Store. All right, so let's begin with our overview. So we'll start by going over the basics of deep links, and then how do you enable those deep links in an Android app. Then go over the different types of deep links like web links, app links, and how do you enable each of them, followed by testing deep links, and then a few options that we have used in our past to tackle backstack management when doing deep links. And then we'll end with like deferred deep linking and some of the solutions that we have used in our past to tackle deferred deep linking. All right, so what is a deep link? Very basic definition is basically a link which when you tap, it goes to a certain destination in your app. You can see in the small GIF that when I tap on internet.xfinity.com, it takes the user into the Xfinity app. Pretty basic, right? For quick browse of all the deep links supported by our app, you can go inside the app info of your app and then go inside like open default links, and it will show you the list of app links that are supported by an app. And very recently, actually this week, Google introduced a deep link panel in Play Console. So if you have an app out in production, you can actually check out this tab, and it mentions all the deep links that are configured by our app. And it also lists down all the deep links that might be misconfigured, and it can give you helpful information using which you can debug your deep links. Having said that, we actually looked at our own app on Play Console, and this entire page is blank, so we still have to figure out like what's going on with that. It's super new. All right, we will be using disambiguation dialog. You guys would be familiar with this. Disambiguation dialog is basically a chooser dialog that Android pops up when it sees multiple apps that can actually handle a deep link. And for a very basic use case, like you might have tapped on a web URL, and when you tap on it, like it gives you the app that can handle that deep link and also like the browser app. So that's what that's what disambiguation dialog is. All right. So with the basic deep link setup, or with a basic deep link definition, like now if I am very new to Android and if I want to enable deep linking in my app, what do I do? So I create an intent filter for the component that I want to deep link. So for example, if it's an activity, I would express my intent filter, and basically what it means is I'm giving an Android a hint that if this is the definition that I'm okay to handle, and that definition comprises of like 3 items: action, category, data. Actions basically means that what type of action does my component can handle, what kind of component I am through the category item, and then the data clearly specifies the exact URI that my component can handle. So intent and filter is the very fundamental to subscribing for a deep link that you want to handle. So for deep links, for an example here, we have a deep link activity registered because I'm specifying the entire intent filter, and the intent filter has an action element set to view, so I can view a document, right? And then it says that this component is of category default browsable. Default means that it can be invoked by start activity or start activity for result APIs. then the browsable category says that it can be invoked by a browser app. Then you might also be familiar with like launcher category, which basically takes your app and puts it on the launcher service of your phone. Then I'm very specifically saying that only invoke me like if the URI is http mypersonaldomain.com, right? So this is a very basic definition of intent filter that you specify in your activity for it to become deep linkable. All right, with that, let's quickly go over some of the types of deep links.
Thank you, Sanat. So with the previous slide, once you add to your Android manifest the intent filter, and you point to an activity that will launch, you already have a function in deep link. So I want to move now to define deep links and the many types that there are and what each one is. So when we talk about deep links, we often talk about either a deep link with a custom scheme, deep link with a web link, or an app link. And I'll go over the differences through all of them. So the first type, it uses a custom scheme. And in this case, I'm showing it in the mini mesh here. It's the little color purple. When I mean scheme, I mean the first part of the deep link. And it's, in our case, it's Xfinity Digital Home. And the other are, the host and the path are where you're going to be sending your user in your app. There are many challenges when we use custom schemes. And the first one is that I send myself an email on the left side here. I guess it's inverted. On the left side, you can see I send myself an email with two deep links. One is a deep link for the Xfinity Digital Home. It's using my custom scheme. And the second deep link is internet.xfinity.com. And that is a web link. So the problem with the custom scheme is that the first deep link, you cannot click on it, right? It doesn't become a touchable target. Most custom scheme deep links are not recognized by third-party email apps or text messages, so you cannot engage customers with them. So you have to use a web link or an app link to do so. So they're mostly used within your own app. So you can use them trigger flows within your own app. You can use custom schemes. And also the biggest challenge, you don't own the scheme. Somebody else can hijack the scheme and use the same scheme, and you would be prompted with the disambiguation prompt that Sanat showed a couple of slides ago. A better type of deep link is what we call a web link. And that uses the scheme of HTTPS, and it's the purple area that I have there, and it resolves to a website. In our case, it's internet.xfinity.com/hotspot map. Web links are not ideal nowadays, especially now that Android 12 came out. So before Android 12, you would see the disambiguation prompt that Sanat showed before if you use a deep link, because it could resolve either to a web browser or to your app, if your app was installed. On Android 12, the big change that happened is that Google is enforcing people to move to app links if they want to use deep links with the HTTP scheme. And I'll talk about app links up next. App links. This is the ideal way to go about. And they are the equivalent, if you do iOS development, of universal links. They use the same HTTP or HTTPS scheme, so you cannot visually identify, is this a web link or is this an app link? It could be either. You have to register your app as the default handler on your manifest, and the same manifest intent filter that Sanat showed, and what you do here is that you add the Android auto-verified set to true. I'll talk a little bit more about it next. Another thing you have to do with app links is that you have to create an assetlinks.json file. And an assetlinks.json file is a protocol to securely capture statements made by digital assets, such as websites or mobile apps, about their relationship with other digital assets. That means you want to create an association between your website and your mobile app. And to do so, you have to verify the ownership of the domain. I have a helpful image there where you end up having to place the JSON file, which is in domain.name, and then you go into /.wellknown/.assetlinks. Asset links link your site and your app, and they have to be, it's a file that you have to be there, it has to physically be there in that location, so you cannot be doing a 302 redirect to that location. The previous company that I worked at, we tried to implement app links, and our backend team put a 302 redirect at the address that I'm showing there to an S3 bucket, and our app links didn't work. And then, because cross collaboration, we had to wait another sprint for that team to fix it, because they had to put it in the backlog, groom it, and go through it. So yes, just take that into account. The Google team recommends that you update robots.txt so their crawlers can go through it and find it. And here's the file that we're going to be putting in that location. It's called assetlinks.json. And I'm showing it on the image there on the left. And the important thing is that the relation there has to be common, handle all URLs. And handle all URLs is what makes that connection, that it knows to handle the URL for your app, right? So instead of going to the website, you open the mobile app. The namespace can be confusing, but it's Android app, and it's always Android app. Some people I've seen put the package name, because you may be confused with that. Underneath, you have to put your package name. Something I want to mention about the package name, you can use the same JSON file and the same asset links for multiple apps. And in our case, we have a debug app, which will have the dot, you'll have your my app dot package. You would add dot debug, so you will need one for your debug app and one for your production app too. Also, you can have multiple apps tied to the same asset links file and the same domain. For instance, google.com has over 10 files, so you can go to google.com/.wellknown/assetlinks.json. You'll find over 10 apps there from Google, and they all tied resolve to google.com and to different apps, which is the interesting part. You can also use this same file to share credentials between your website, between your web browser and your app, the instance of your web browser in your app. And finally, I want to go to how you can verify. Once you put the file, you created the file, you put it on your domain, you can just run a simple, helpful ADB shell, PM, which is package manager. You add app links, and then you add your package name. And once you do that, you'll get a little a result on the terminal. And the important part there is that you can verify the state of your app links there. So in our case, I see internet.xfinity.com, it's verified, meaning that if the app is installed and somebody taps on an app link of internet.xfinity.com, your app will open as the default instead of the web browser. And now we're going to move into testing deep links now that we can implement them, and Sanat will continue.
All right, thanks, Chrystian. So now if the setup is done right, through all the steps that Chrystian talked about, how do I know whether my setup actually works? So one of the quick utilities that ADB provides is that you can fire a deep link using this command. And I'm here, for example, firing the https internet.xfinity.com. But better than ADB shell, if you don't want to leave away from your Android Studio, there is App Links Assistant. And this assistant actually provides you quite a number of things. It can actually help you to add intent filters directly into the manifest. It can help you create that assetlinks.json file that Chrystian showed. And then it also has a nice little feature to actually fire the deep links, so you don't have to really leave your Android Studio. So yeah, this is one of the good tools that you can use to fire deep links. Now, okay, I understand that you can fire deep links. It opens my app, but what are some of the values that I can see inside the app? So if deep link, in this case, deep link activity is the target component that I have registered. The values that I can inspect is the entire deep link URI would be available on intent.data property. And I can then further inspect the path of the URI to figure out what destination is the deep link trying to go to. There is also a refer host property on the activity itself, and you can use that to figure out what is the package that actually invoked your activity. And based on this, you can tag on information like whether it was invoked from within the app or from an external process. All right, so now I can understand, okay, I can fire, I can inspect some values, how do I navigate? And there have been tons of talks today and yesterday about navigation, so some of them actually would touch on that. So, going back to the basic definition, I register an intent filter, like what is the behavior that I get? The behavior is a one-shot deep link to whatever destination that you have configured. So here, I'm adding an intent filter to this page, and the scheme host path is all configured, and the behavior that I get is when I fire off that activity 1 deep link, it kind of loads the destination page on top of the origin app from which you invoked it. And then when you hit the back button, you go back to your app that you were working on. So yeah, like this is a very quick way of enabling it and seeing that and seeing a behavior where you don't really need to leave the previous app, right? But now, what if I have a requirement where I want the users to go through a similar backstack where where it mimics the exact same behavior if they were to enter the app manually? So I can leverage, and this also assumes that you have a traditional architecture where you're working with fragments and activities. So in here, you can see that I have the deep link activity registered with right intent filters. And when I fire that deep link, I'm actually, after the inspection of what destination that I'm going to, I'm using the task stack builder API to add intermediate screens, which may be activities for your case, as intents, and then I call start activities. One thing to note here is when I call start activities, it is just the destination activity that gets created and the user sees it, but when they hit the back button, they would actually go through all the intents that you would have added. So a quick demo, the behavior that you get from activity 1 is once I start hitting the back button, I go through the same screens. So if you're working with a traditional components and architecture, like task stack builder is one of the APIs that you can use. But what if now my app has navigation component implementation? How do I enable deep links in there? You can use a deep link tag inside your navigation graph, and you can just specifically specify the complete URI, and you can then reference this navigation graph inside your activity. And the good thing about this is, once you specify this way, Android during build step would actually go and read your entire URI, and it would populate the right intent filters. But then the behavior again is a one-shot deep link where you load the destination page, and when you hit back, you go back to the first app that you were on. But now, what if I want a backstack and I'm using navigation component? So after inspecting the destination that I'm going to, I would use the nav deep link builder API. And then I would specify the destination component, which actually hosts the navigation graph. And I can add the intermediate destinations, which would become the part of my synthetic backstack. Internally, you can see that I'm using the nav deep link builder API still uses the create task stack builder. And when I fire start activities, let's see what the behavior I get. So I fire fragment 2. And the user, when they start hitting the back button, they would go through the same screens because I've created that synthetic backstack with nav deep link builder API. All right, now my world looks like where I'm writing compose screens. I'm in a process where I'm migrating some of my screens to compose. Some of them are written with traditional fragments activities, and my architecture is all over the place, right? Like, how do I work with this? And I'm trying to deep link to a compose screen. So once I inspect that the destination that I'm going to is a compose screen, I fire off the destination which actually hosts all the compose screens. So in here, I'm basically deep linking it to the compose fragment, passing it the arguments bundle. And then whenever that compose fragment stands up and it has stood up its compose screens, it can use the nav host controller API to go to the right destination. So again, I have managed to create that backstack even in that world where I have some screens as compose, some as fragments, some as activities, which is kind of the real world that we live in because we are all migrating our apps. So the idea here is to show that there are so many possible solutions that you can play with and use based on what architecture you're really working with. It is not a silver bullet that you can just pick and do it. Like, you have to be very conscious of what architecture that you're working with. All right, with that, let's talk about deferred deep linking. Chrystian?
Thank you, Sanat. So all the deep links that we have looked at before are when the app is already installed. So the big question is, how do you handle those deep links when the app is not installed? And for that, there are many, many solutions. Two of my favorite ones are using Firebase dynamic links or using the Google Play Referrer API. I created a helpful image for that. So just to refresh your memory, when we use a regular deep link, the experience you see when the app is not installed is that you are redirected to the web browser. We really don't want that for our users. We want them to come to our app. So the best scenario is to go, when they don't have the app, like I showed the image here, they go to Google Play. And then once they launch the app, you want to get that original deep link that generated. So I'll talk about how we can do that using Firebase dynamic links. It's a special type of deep link. It survives the app install process. It's a free product from Google with a caveat. And it creates an asset links.json file. So it's a special type of an app link. You can create these links very simply on console.firebase.google.com. It has its own dynamic link builder API, which you can use within your own app to build deep links. Also, your backend team can build them using a RESTful API. And here's where I'm going to talk about the caveat of the free part. Google gives you, you can select your own name for your the first part of your host name, which would be like, in our case, we could say xfinity.com. And then it's .page.link if you want to use the free version of Google, or otherwise you can host your own domain or subdomain into Google Cloud, and then you can have your own, your own deep link branding tied to your domain. You can have a very simple configuration that you manage all on the website of console.firebase. You can use the same deep link across Android and iOS, which is very helpful. Your deep link can launch your instant app. It can launch a custom URL or go to the Play Store. You can also include UTM parameters. Previous company I worked for, marketing loved them. It's called the Erkin tracking module. You can track campaigns, add extra characters there so you can keep track of the funnel of users arriving to your app. Another thing you get for free from it, Firebase Dynamic Links, is analytics. I mean, ideally, you should always include analytics with all of your deep link implementations, but Firebase already gives you some of that out of the box. You get a number of clicks, redirects, app installs, first opens, and reopens. So returning users that tap on your deep link, you get all that data for free. One of the challenges is that you have to implement dependencies. You have to add the bill of materials of Firebase, dynamic links reference, and analytics. So you do have to add a third-party dependency to achieve this. Here I'm showing how you can get the URI. Basically, you cannot, if you use a Firebase dynamic link, you cannot simply go into your data.uri on your activity and get the dynamic link string. You actually have to implement the Firebase dynamic links, and you get it on the pending dynamic link data.link. And once you grab that, you can execute your deep link using Firebase. The second option, and my favorite, because it's also free, is that you can use the Google Play Install Referrer to fake a deep link. So you can give, basically, Google Play Install Referrer, you're providing users a URL that points to your Play Store, and with that, you can add referrer, like I showed in the image, add referrer, and you add a referral code. That's where you can insert a deep link or something to trigger the same type of flow into your app. So a user doesn't have the app installed, You give them the Google Play link with a refer URL, and then you can extract it. You can get the URL, the original URL the user clicked on, the timestamp, when they click, the timestamp of the installation, and whether the user interacted with your instant app experience in the last 7 days. And for that, you're technically establishing a connection between your app and Google Play. You need to implement a listener for it, and once you'll get the code, you'll get on your main activity or your activity that is launched. At first, you can just read if there's a refer URL, you can get the refer URL, and with that you can fake the experience of deep link, because for instance, you can have your deep link in the referral code, and you'll get the whole URL. You just parse it, and you fake the same experience. The data is available for 90 days, but ideally, you only need to do this the first time the user launches the app. And here's a diagram of how that works. The user doesn't have your app. They install it from Google Play with the URL, referrer URL. They open the app, and then you get the referrer URL, and then you can redirect them to multiple flows within your app. And that's it. There's our other options. Apps Flyer and other products also provide. Branch.io provide the same thing, but the two options I showed are technically free. And we posted our code samples at the following address. You can go ahead and pick it up, and feel free to follow us on Twitter. I will make sure to post the slides and Sanat 2 of the presentation after this. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Thank you.